Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. I am so pumped you're tuning in today because we're tackling something that literally every single one of us struggles with. We're looking at this brilliant short text today that sets up, well, the ultimate showdown. It's that massive clash between the comfortable, super safe illusion of planning our goals and the harsh, totally unforgiving reality of actually doing them. We're talking about how to bridge that giant gap between the whiteboard and the real world. So get ready to totally re-examine how you tackle your biggest projects because today we are walking straight into the fire. Welcome to the Crucible of Execution.
Okay, let's dive into this. To really get what this showdown is all about, we first need to look at the title of our source text. It uses a very specific, very intense word, crucible. Now, a crucible isn't just, a tough time. Historically, it's a container used to heat metals to these absolutely incredible temperatures. You melt them down, you remove the impurities, and you forge something entirely new and way stronger. And the text we're exploring today frames the act of execution exactly like this. It's a situation of severe trial. When you actually start doing the work, you are stepping into a fire that's going to test you, burn away your old assumptions, and ultimately force the creation of a brand new, upgraded version of yourself.
But, before we get to the fire, we have to look at where we all actually like to hang out. The source text makes this really blunt observation right at the beginning. Everybody loves the planning phase. And I want you to ask yourself honestly right now, why do we love the planning phase so much? Think about your own life. Think about that new business idea, that fitness journey, or maybe a creative project. You buy the fancy color-coded notebooks. You download like 3 different project management apps. You spend hours, literally hours, picking the perfect font for your timeline. You feel energized. You feel optimistic. The text really demands we look at why we prefer lingering in this cozy little space rather than actually getting to work.
Well, that captures the exact psychological trap the author identifies. The text states a blunt truth. Planning gives a feeling that we are doing something. It's an illusion. Planning, as the source points out, takes just enough mental effort to trick our brains into releasing a little hit of dopamine. We feel productive. We feel like we've got forward momentum, but it's a completely false momentum. We're exerting all this mental energy, mapping out the route, color coordinating our tasks, but we haven't actually taken a single physical step out the front door. It's like we're sitting in a parked car, turning the steering wheel back and forth, making engine noises, and totally convincing ourselves we're driving down the highway.
And this brilliantly illustrates the core conflict the author is trying to show us. The source text sets up this stark juxtaposition. On one side, you've got mental effort. The text explicitly tells us this is comfortable, it's safe. In the mental realm of planning, you are in complete control. The weather is always perfect, the customers always say yes, the code always compiles without a single error. But on the flip side, you have the actual effort of execution. This is the crucible. This is where you trade the safety of your imagination for the messy, unpredictable, and fiercely uncomfortable reality of the physical world.
Everything changes at this exact threshold. The text draws a hard line in the sand right here. The real process starts when one starts to work. This is a massive narrative shift. It's that moment the hero leaves the safety of the ordinary world and steps into the dark unknown. All that planning? That wasn't the process. That was literally just the prologue. The moment your fingers hit the keyboard, the moment you make that first terrifying sales call, the moment you lift the actual weight, that is the very second the real story begins. And as the source warns us, the real world is rarely as polite as our plans.
So the crucial point is this incredibly evocative realization from the text. During execution, the heavy-handedness of life comes into picture. Just let that phrase sink in for a second, right? The heavy-handedness of life. When you plan, you have a light touch. You arrange things perfectly. But life is clumsy. Life is heavy-handed. Life aggressively knocks over your carefully arranged dominoes. The environment you are executing in doesn't care about your beautiful spreadsheet or your elegant strategy. Life pushes back, and it pushes back hard.
And what exactly does that heavy-handedness look like out in the wild? The text lays it out in a pretty brutal sequence. When you execute, you will face failures. You'll face uncontrollable interruptions that completely shatter your perfect schedule. You will face rejections from the exact people you thought would support you. You'll face deep, hollow disappointments when things just don't work out. And you will face mounting everyday frustrations. Feel the weight of that list. This isn't just one bad day. This is a stacking, compounding weight that you have to carry the exact moment you decide to stop planning and start doing. It is an absolute assault on your initial enthusiasm.
And right in the middle of all those failures and rejections, the author highlights this specific, agonizing detail. You will be unable to see immediate results. Honestly, this is the ultimate test of your willpower. In the planning phase, you see the result instantly in your mind. It's perfect, it's vivid, and it's right there. But in execution, You pour your blood, sweat, and tears into the crucible for days, weeks, maybe even months, and when you look closely, nothing seems to have changed. That heavy disappointment, that lack of instant gratification, is what breaks most people. It's the deafening silence of reality refusing to applaud your hard work.
But look, the text doesn't just leave us in despair. Let's move to and see how this builds the internal tools we actually need to survive this crucible. First up, patience, which makes sense because of that whole lack of immediate results we just talked about. Second, learning, because the heavy hand of life is going to constantly teach you that your plan was flawed. But the third one is the most profound, unlearning. To execute successfully, you can't just acquire new skills. You have to actively destroy and unlearn your old assumptions, your arrogance, and your naive expectations. You have to unlearn the blinding perfectionism that the planning phase taught you.
And that requirement to unlearn brings us to the deepest, most empathetic point the author makes. Execution requires the pain of leaving the things that are part of you. This is precisely why it's a crucible. It burns away the impurities. Real execution isn't just about adding things to your life, it's about shedding them. You might have to leave behind your comfortable daily routines. You might have to leave behind the safe identity of being just a dreamer or a planner. You might even have to leave behind relationships or mindsets that simply do not support your growth anymore. The text doesn't shy away from this. It explicitly calls it a pain. Growth hurts deeply because it requires loss. Which really brings us to the final, most important thought derived from this powerful text. We've seen the planning is a comfortable illusion, and execution is a painful, heavy-handed crucible that demands you change who you fundamentally are. So the real question isn't whether you have a good plan or a pretty timeline. The question is, what are you willing to leave behind to start executing? What comforts, what illusions, what parts of your current self are you willing to let burn in the crucible so that your goals can actually become reality? I want you to think deeply about that as you look at your next big project. Thank you so much for joining me to explore this text today, and until next time, keep learning and start executing.